While my dad spent everything on my sister and now wants my house since she failed out of college, I worked many jobs to pay for education. Before moving on to the current circumstance, I 30F must give some background information. Despite his attempts to conceal it as a youngster, my father's favorite child, who is 58M, has always been my sister Eva, who is 26F. The partiality became more apparent when our mother died when EVA was 8. And I was 12. I believe he always regarded EVA differently because she reminded him of our mother. Every accomplishment I made as a child was evaluated in relation to Eva's potential. My father would say it's good if I became straight, but think of what Eva might achieve with her skills. He would claim Eva would have taken first place if I had won a competition. Eva's fictitious success was always the focus instead of my real accomplishments. I adapted to this dynamic and concentrated on my academics in the hopes that my father would one day be pleased with my academic performance. I received acceptances to a number of esteemed colleges, including my ideal school, after graduating high school with a 4.0 GPA. I felt like my efforts had finally paid off, and I was overjoyed. Everything broke apart at that point. My father broke the bombshell when I was seated at our kitchen table with acceptance letters strewn all around me. Although Dad could only afford to send one of us to college, he claimed to have been saving for it. Evia was more ambitious and wanted to study overseas, so he had determined that she would be the one. I made an effort to reason with him. I presented him with my scholarships, which will partially pay for my education. In order to help pay for education, I promised to work part-time. I even proposed that rather than attending pricey private institutions. We both attend public schools. However, he suppressed all suggestions. He had made up his mind that EVA would go to London to study. Eva has always dreamed of studying abroad, he said. You're more realistic, you can work here, and if you'd want, enroll in some community college courses. Eva is more in need of this chance than you are. He encouraged me to quit being emotional and consider what was best for the family when I started weeping. I was heartbroken. It didn't matter that I had put in so much effort and done everything correctly. When my mom's sister, my aunt, learned of it, she was incensed and offered to assist, but she was also having financial difficulties following a divorce. I was grateful for her emotional support, but she was unable to cover my tuition. I was determined to finish my studies. I attended evening school at the community college and acquired a full-time job at the neighborhood grocery. I studied during my lunch breaks while working as a server on the weekends. I occasionally slept off over my textbooks because I was so tired, but I persisted. My father's whole attention was on Evie's future at this period. To get her ready for London, he paid for tutors, purchased pricey SAT preparation classes, and even sent her to summer camps overseas. I was attempting to juggle job and school while subsisting on ramen noodles and energy drinks. I finished my degree in computer science in 6 years, earning credits gradually by enrolling in classes when I could afford them. My father was too busy assisting EVA and getting ready for her big trip to London to attend any of my classes or graduation ceremony. My father used almost all of his funds to pay for Eva's schooling when she reached 18. He cashed out his retirement savings, remortgaged the property, and took out loans. He ignored everyone's warnings that he was being careless with his money. He insisted that Eva was unique and deserving of the greatest education available. After college, I concentrated on my job and advanced in the IT industry. I eventually purchased my own home last year after living frugally and saving a lot of money. Although it's not a mansion, I own it since I worked hard to pay for it. While my father boasted to everyone about his younger daughter receiving a top-notch education in London, I was doing all of this. Eva unexpectedly showed up at our father's house last month. She stated that she wanted time to discover herself, and that mental health concerns forced her to abandon college. But I found out the truth after looking through her previous roommate's texts and social media accounts. Eva had partied, gotten into trouble, and failed school for 4 years. Because of her subpar academic record and unsuitable conduct at student activities, she was really asked to leave the institution. My father and EVA unexpectedly arrived to my place yesterday. Since I had an extra bedroom, they initially asked if Eva could live with me. My father recommended that since EVA needs stability to heal, I should give her my house when I refused. I'm doing well in my profession, so I could easily purchase another property, he remarked. Eva requires assistance in getting back on her feet. What I was hearing was unbelievable. I was being asked to give over my house to his golden kid, who had squandered hundreds of thousands of pounds partying in London, by the man who had refused to help me with college. I burst out laughing, which infuriated him. He said that I was being self-centered, and that it was my duty as the older sister to assist EVA. EVA simply stood there in tears, expressing how difficult her life has been, and how much she needs help from her family. I reminded them both of how difficult college had been for me without my father's help. I emphasized that EVA was solely responsible for her current predicament. Then, my father boldly said that my mother would have favored my helping my sister. That's when I lost it. I instructed both of them to leave my house and never return. I informed my father that he had no right to control me by using my mother's memories, especially because he had not provided his two daughters with the equal support that she would have desired. Since then, I've been inundated with calls and texts from them. The majority of our relatives are supporting them since my father has included our extended family, claiming that since family comes first, I should assist my sister. My aunt is the only one who supports my decision and understands my stance. They continue to try to contact me through other family members, even though I have banned their numbers. I'm not going to back down, but it's becoming tiresome when family keep guilt-tripping me. Some of them claim that I'm retaliating against EVA because I'm resentful of the past. They fail to see that this is about refusing to support their entitled conduct, not about getting even. I'm aware that I'm not mistaken. However, I'm beginning to feel exhausted by my family's continual manipulation of my emotions. I still won't let EVA move in or give up my house, though. I put too much effort into earning what I have, so I can't just give it to someone who has never worked for anything. Update 1: in the 2 weeks since my previous post, a lot has happened, and it's not good. The situation has gotten more worse than I could have predicted. When I learned that my father had actually interviewed many attorneys about pressuring me to give EVA my house, it infuriated me. My cousin, who works at one of the law companies he visited, told me about this. My cousin claims that my father spent 2 days visiting different law firms in an attempt to locate someone who might assist him in safeguarding the interests of his younger daughter. He reportedly attempted to make the case that, as our father, he had some authority to choose how his children's possessions should be divided. All of his attorneys informed him that his claim was absurd and unfeasible under the law. However, I'm feeling sick to my stomach since he even attempted this and actively looked for methods to take my house away from me for days. My mom's sister, my aunt, has been my pillar of support during this entire ordeal. When she learned about my father's legal trips, she made the decision to investigate more, and the results were startling. It comes out that in order to pay for Eva's schooling in London, my father had taken out a mortgage on his home. In order to sustain Eva's extravagant lifestyle overseas, he did more than simply spend his funds. He maxed his credit cards, took out many loans, and even borrowed money from different family members. He is currently drowning in debt. The majority of his retirement income is being consumed by his monthly mortgage payments, and he is being harassed by credit card firms to make payments. They are genuinely desperate to take possession of my residence for that reason. They need an asset they can sell or borrow against to get out of their financial bind, so they're not only searching for a home for EVA to reside. EVA, on the other hand, has been quite busy. She has been lying about me to everyone in our family. Her assertion that I promised her half of my house years ago is the most ridiculous. As sisters do, I allegedly promised her that I would keep half the property for her. She even claims that during her farewell party, I made this vow in front of other family members. This is utterly untrue. First of all, I was working 2 jobs at the time, so I wasn't even at her farewell party. Second, I was still saving money for the home, so I hadn't even purchased it yet. However, some family members have caught on to this deception, and have been phoning me constantly, putting pressure on me to keep my word. My father's brother, my uncle, even wrote me a lengthy email in which he said that I was undermining family trust, and that sisterly vows were holy. Eva's behavior when I eventually confronted her about this deception made me realize how entitled she had grown. In between sobbing, she confessed that she had made up the vow. However, rather of offering an apology, she attempted to defend it. She said that I should want to assist her anyhow, because I'm her sister and I'm doing well. In fact, she stated that sisters should share everything, regardless of whether I kept my word. My father's decision to take matters into his own hands made the situation considerably worse. He unexpectedly showed up at my place of employment yesterday. When the receptionist requested him to wait, he stormed into our office building, told her he had to see his daughter immediately, and wouldn't leave. He began shouting about family responsibilities and how I was ruining Eva's future as soon as I stepped out into the foyer. Everything could be heard by my coworkers. He was yelling that my mother would be ashamed of me, that I'm cold-hearted, and that I'm envious of EVA. He was still screaming about how unappreciative I am when security had to take him out. I felt embarrassed by the incident, but my supervisor was kind. In a matter of minutes, my father almost ruined the professional reputation I fought so hard to establish. I became aware that I required legal protection following the event at work. The lawyer I hired found anything concerning. EVA and my father had been researching squatters' rights and adverse possession legislation. In fact, they intended to try to move in while I was at work and then refused to leave, in the hopes that they would be able to assert some kind of property rights. My attorney promptly filed stop and desist letters to both of them. With cameras at every entrance, I've also put in a complete security system around my property. Despite the fact that they never had keys, I replaced all of my locks for safety. In addition, I have explained the issue to all of my neighbors and requested them to contact the police if they witness EVA or my father attempting to enter my home. All of this has taken a significant emotional toll. I can't get my father out of my head. I've worked so hard for this, and the father who was meant to protect and provide for both of his daughters equally is now actively attempting to take everything away. I get a mix of anger and heartache every time I consider how he's prepared to ruin my financial stability in order to support Eva's reckless actions. Some family members continue to try to mediate conflicts by recommending mediation or family therapy. But when they're actively attempting to take my house, how can I even think about making amends? How can I put my faith in someone who will lie, manipulate, and maybe break the law to achieve their goals? Right now, my main priorities are emotional and legal self-defense. I only communicate with them through my lawyer, and I've blocked them on all platforms. I feel like I live in a fortress because of the security cameras, but at least I can sleep at night knowing that they can't infiltrate and assert their squatter rights. Update 2: Everything blew out just when I thought things couldn't get much worse. The whole situation altered when my aunt made a discovery. Recall that before departing for London, Eva had spent a few weeks staying with my aunt. Last weekend, my aunt discovered Eva's old laptop hidden in the back of a closet when organizing her guest room. When Eva departed for London, she must have forgotten about it. When my aunt plugged the laptop in to check if it was still functional, it turned on without her knowing. She was sickened by what she discovered. Hundreds of emails, notes, and conversations revealed that Eva had been organizing this entire situation from the start. This was a planned strategy, not merely a case of a student having too much fun and failing classes. We discovered chat logs from her senior year of high school, in which she boasted to her pals about her flawless plan. She described how she would persuade our father to move her to London so she could live lavishly for a few years before returning home when the money ran out. She had even planned how she would later use the family to her advantage. The messages were awful. She made a joke about how simple it was to control our father, calling him a fool for falling for her phony passion for learning. When it came to using emotional triggers on him, she had meticulous records. Bringing up her mother, sobbing about feeling abandoned, and discussing her aspirations for academic achievement. It was all staged and premeditated. However, what she wrote about me was the most painful aspect. She made fun of my difficulties while college in some of our talks. She said that only losers have to work through school, and that I was miserable for working several jobs. She boasted to her friends that because she had her father completely smitten, she would never have to put in as much effort. She even made a remark about how amusing it was because I thought it was humorous right before she returned, which demonstrated that she had also been organizing the home situation. She had been talking to her pals about the best methods to get me to give her my house and looking into ways to get property from family members. When she returned with that narrative on mental health difficulties, she was well aware of what she was doing. Our mother was the subject of the harshest messages. Eva wrote about how she had discovered that the quickest method to persuade our father to comply with her wishes was to appear depressed and say things that our mother would have approved of. She boasted about using mom's memories to control our father and me, calling it her secret weapon, in the event that I required legal protection. My aunt provided copies of everything to me. As I read it all, I was trembling with rage. Even if all of my suspicions about Eva's actual character were validated, it was still unsettling to see it so blatantly expressed in writing. I made the decision to show our father everything. This must be the proof he needed to recognize EVA for who she truly is, I reasoned. I went to his residence with the assistance of my aunt. I thought he couldn't possibly dispute such obvious evidence, so I produced copies of the worst messages. He became enraged with me, rather than EVA. He said that since I was envious of EVA, I had made up all the proof. He said I must have planted the messages or hacked the laptop when I showed him the real one. He said that since I couldn't take Eva being his favorite kid, I was attempting to damage her reputation. EVA witnessed this altercation, and her response was telling. Rather than refuting the texts, she broke down in tears and claimed that she merely wrote them as a result of peer pressure. She said that I was terrible for pulling out old texts to harm her, and that she never meant any of it. In fact, as he glared at me, my father consoled her. I should feel embarrassed of myself, he continued, because I was attempting to kick Eva when she was on the ground. He accused my aunt of plotting with me to harm Eva when she attempted to defend me and admitted that she had located the laptop. I was utterly numb as I left their home. He was staring at the proof of Eva's deception. But instead of acknowledging that his golden kid had been deceiving him for years, he decided to think I had made it all up. According to my aunt, I should be happy since I can now be sure that there is no chance that he would ever see reason. In case they attempt something different, my lawyer now has copies of everything. But to be honest, I don't give a damn about what they'll do next. The last straw was witnessing my father decide that I would make up proof instead of believing Eva's falsehoods. I'm done trying to explain things to him. I finished both of them. Update 6 months have passed since the laptop incident, and I am at last prepared to discuss the fallout. For me at least, a lot has changed, mainly for the better. In all honesty, these past 6 months have been the most tranquil of my life since I severed all communication with EVA and my father. I've been informed about their situation by my aunt, and it's precisely what you would anticipate. Due to his inability to make the mortgage payments, my father was forced to sell his home. His obligations from Eva's London escapade were hardly paid off by the sale. They currently rent a modest 2-bedroom apartment in a less desirable area of town, and my aunt claims that they are having trouble making ends meet. Eva is still unemployed. She has apparently been attending interviews, but she will not take any job that she believes is below her level of skills. I find it ironic that someone without a degree would be fussy about their employment. When they requested proof of graduation, her attempt to apply for several jobs by stating that she had a degree from London backfired. Intriguingly, the dynamics of the family have changed. When my father began requesting money from them, the majority of family initially supported them. He went to a number of relatives and said he needed short-term assistance to help EVA get back on her feet. The family's sympathy began to wane after a few loans that were never paid back. When EVA unexpectedly showed up and attempted to network with attendees for job openings, last month's wedding for my cousin turned into a spectacular event. After drinking too much, she made a fuss and told everyone how her life had been destroyed by her envious sister. She was sobbing about how unjust everything was when my father had to drag her out. The family's perception of the true issue was altered by that experience. I'm still being pressured by certain relatives to assist them. Last week, my uncle called and asked if I could give them a loan to help with their rent. His number was blocked by me. I could at least assist EVA get a position at my firm, according to another aunt. I declined, telling her that recommending someone who falsified their educational qualifications would not jeopardize my professional image. My phone number has changed. I've moved to a new area of the city, and I only communicate with my aunt and 2 cousins who have shown they are trustworthy and won't divulge my personal information. After we learned that my father had been speculating about whether he might assert any parental rights to my property, my lawyer assisted me in establishing more legal safeguards for my assets. I'm not taking any chances, but he can't. The home they so desperately desired? I installed a home office and did a total renovation. I occasionally consider how EVA intended to live here, and it increases my appreciation for all that I have worked for. In addition, I've been guiding young women in technology as they pursue their professions. Assisting those who genuinely want to work for their achievement makes you feel wonderful. Last month, my father wrote to my work address, which is the only one he still has. The typical guilt trips about family responsibilities and how he would never comprehend why I abandoned them were all over it. Without replying, I tore it to pieces. I'm done trying to explain myself to folks who didn't want to hear my point of view. All of the family conflict has been worth it for the calm I found in cutting them off. Yes, I do occasionally feel depressed about the way things worked out, but I always tell myself that I made my own decisions and they chose theirs. I don't want toxic family members to take away the hard work I put into earning all I own. Going without touch may seem harsh to some, but I've discovered that there are instances when it's the healthiest option. I'm at peace with my choice and no longer upset. I'm happy than ever, living my life as I see fit, and my house has become my haven.